Hello and welcome to Meraki Unboxed. Once again, my name's Simon Thompson, host of the show. And this week we have a really exciting conversation where we're going to focus in on some of our technology where we open up what Meraki is capable of using our APIs, and we allow our partners to come in and do something pretty cool and creative with that technology. So that's the purpose of today's show. Before we get into that, I just want to quickly remind you that this show is available on all of your popular podcast platforms. I'm sure you know this if that's how you're subscribed. It is also available on YouTube. We do have some people who like to listen to it on there. So whichever way you are hearing this, do please subscribe to the podcast. And of course, then you will be notified when you get those updates approximately every 2 weeks. We love to get some feedback about the show as well. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can reach out to us through the community, the Meraki community, at community.meraki.com. Alternatively, you can reach me directly on Twitter at Meraki Simon, one word. And that will find me, and I want to hear your feedback. So please do let us know what you think of the show and what you'd like us to cover next. All right, so let's get into our show today. And we've got a couple of folks joining us today. I've got Alicia, who's here in the room with me. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Simon. It's actually Alicia.
Alicia. Absolutely terrible. Okay, this proves that it's recorded live. Let me see if I can get the other person's name right. Matt.
Hi, Simon. Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Slightly less of a challenge. Did I say Alicia?
Yeah.
Alicia, oh dear.
No biggie.
Does that happen very often?
It happens all the time. And sometimes I debate. That's why I paused. I was like, should I correct him or not?
Okay, Alicia, I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so Alicia, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do for us here at Meraki.
Of course. So my name's Alicia Lorenzetti. I'm an ecosystem business development manager at Meraki, and I manage 80-plus ecosystem technology partners. My team works together with technology partners to allow for integration between their solution offering and Meraki technology, which Simon alluded to. This includes integrations between network dashboard, Meraki AP scanning data, Meraki camera data stream. They actually leverage all that information to create a solution to help people further their business mission. So ultimately, technology partner solution pulls the mass data available from a Meraki platform to offer real business insights and values to customers and partners.
Wow. That's quite an introduction.
Yeah.
So that keeps you pretty busy, I'm imagining.
Oh, yeah, it's a full-time job.
Full-time job. Okay, all right. Well, so why are folks investing in Meraki Technology Partners? So why do they take that approach and find us through them, essentially?
So companies are realizing there's an economic, operational, even security benefit for utilizing Meraki, data from Meraki. So more and more Meraki customers want to hit the ground running. So by investing in a turnkey tailored solution offered by our tech partners, they can hit the ground running. In order to drive immediate business value, customers prefer easy out-of-the-box solutions that can be implemented very quickly. They want to leverage their data right away so they can get desired business outcomes by leveraging the data.
Right. So it's about what you can do over and above the simple technology that we provide from a networking perspective to turnkey more solutions, essentially.
In addition to that, Meraki Tech Partners have been vetted and approved by our team. So there's a formal relationship where we really evaluated these guys to make sure they can bring real value to our customers.
Okay.
And those who have been vetted and passed the test, so to speak, we've considered experienced professionals in respective to their fields.
Right. So let's talk about the technology partner that we're talking to today. We already mentioned his name, but which tell us about the company.
So today's featured technology partner is Armours. It's a great example, or they're a great example of a technology partner who has built an incredible security solution on top of the Meraki technology. So they offer an additional layer of visibility and security for unmanaged IoT devices. And that this solution is not available with Meraki standalone.
Okay. And that's exactly the reason why we're having this conversation today, because we want to talk about not really Meraki so much as what can be done over and above once we have these technology partners leveraging our platform. All right. So, Matt, time to bring you in, I think. So let's start off with a quick introduction. Tell us all about who you are, what you do, a little bit about your background. Maybe we'd like to just get to know you a little better.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So, as you said, Matt McKinnon. I'm part of the Product Management and Technology Alliances team at Armours. And so I get involved anytime that Armours is going to work with a technology vendor like Meraki and do some integration and build something kind of interesting. I came to Armours about a year and a half ago, really because of the importance of what Armours does. I've been in the security business for a long time, and I worked in endpoint security where we were solving problems for Mac and Windows and Linux devices, but we really didn't have an answer for everything else. There's a bunch of other stuff on people's networks, and Armours really had a great solution to that. So that's what brought me over here.
What kind of things are we talking about? So what kind of devices are we talking about today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So IoT, the Internet of Things, a lot of people think they hear that word and they think Fitbits and Amazon Echoes, and those certainly qualify. But what we care about is much, much broader than that. In a large enterprise, you've got IP cameras and smart TVs and printers. You've got HVAC systems and patient monitors, robotic arms. Even things like in oil rigs and industrial control systems are all being attached to the network now, and these all have to be secured and managed.
Right, and that must be one of the biggest headaches, I imagine, because, we've quite a few of us, I suppose, are starting to deploy these things even in our homes, so we've got a sense of what we're talking about, these little devices of various kinds, and of course, Meraki has cameras as well, and who knows about the future, but you can imagine that this could be like a Pandora's box of challenges from an IT perspective, right?
It is. The growth here is staggering. There's, Gartner would predict that over 25 billion devices will be connected to the internet by 2021. 90% of those will be what we call unagentable. That means you can't install typical antivirus and protection kind of technology on them. There are things like cameras and otherwise that they have to be managed some other way, have to be secured some other way. And so there needs to be a solution to identify those things and determine whether they're behaving appropriately on the network or not.
And if customers don't have that, like what if they don't have something like your solution, then how are they getting around that challenge?
Well, people are trying, right? Obviously, nobody's just completely ignoring the problem, but people are trying with things like network access control, firewalls, or agent-based technology. And each one of those strategies has its weaknesses. Network access control lets something on the network, but it doesn't know whether it's behaving appropriately when it's on the network or not. Firewalls are good at blocking at the edge, but the sort of network perimeter is really poorly defined in most places. And as we already discussed, a lot of these devices, you can't install an agent on them. So all the classic agent-based technology doesn't work. So a lot of the traditional tools just simply don't work for these new devices.
But these are IP-based technologies, right? So you're connecting to the network in the usual way. Have I got that right? Or is there any other way that these devices are connecting?
Correct. These devices are all connecting over the IP network and communicating classic IP networking ways.
Right. Yeah. So I could see how that could become a challenge because you've got setting different rules for all these different devices. It could get pretty overwhelming quite quickly, I'm sure.
Correct.
All right. So that sounds like pretty interesting technology then. So you're clearly helping customers to integrate these IoT devices into their own environments. Tell us a little bit about the connection with Meraki.
Right. So the way, let's talk for a second about kind of how Armours works, and then it'll be more clear why why Armours or Meraki is such a good relationship for us. So what Armours needs to do its job is it needs visibility of what's happening on the network. We're completely agentless, completely passive. We don't poll or scan or probe or create any traffic on the network. So that means we need to read data or listen to what's happening. In a classic enterprise environment, we'll listen to a raw network traffic off a span port. We'll grab logs off of a bunch of different places, wireless LAN controllers, network equipment, and otherwise. Where Meraki is so great to work with is because of that cloud-based solution and because of the rich set of APIs that are there, we can get pretty much everything we need from a data source directly out of the Meraki APIs. And we can turn on an Armours integration with Meraki in about 10 to 15 minutes, swap some API keys, and things just work. We don't have to deploy any hardware or any technology on the customer's network.
All right. So it is the fact that we've opened up this data essentially via the API that enables all this magic to happen from your perspective. It's obviously helpful.
You got it. The APIs that Meraki has published are exactly what Armours needs.
And how do you find? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you work with APIs and other vendors as well in this kind of function. How do you find the Meraki APIs to work with? It's probably a leading question, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it is a little dangerous question, isn't it? But Yeah, Meraki's been terrific to work with. We've exercised the APIs that are there pretty extensively, but we've also collaborated with the API team really carefully. We've asked questions about how best to use the APIs. The API team has coached us on the best way to get the data we need. Anytime we've even asked for some enhancement requests, and we've got some improvements made that make our job a little bit easier and make the whole system quite streamlined. So yeah, this is a great collaboration for us, a great partnership for us, and in the end, we're creating a great product for our mutual customers.
Yeah, and it's clear that you're having some success with this as well. I mean, you've been in the news a few times recently. So tell us a little bit of some of the headlines there and how they might be of interest to our audience.
Yeah, two really big things that have been in the news recently. We've been around for a couple of years now, and we were recently acquired at a $1.1 billion valuation. So that was a pretty staggering number,
Nice.
but it really is going to help accelerate all the plans that we've had in place, and we're still on the same growth path, expanding globally, executing on a roadmap. But having one single investor to really help drive that is going to be a big benefit to us.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of Armours in the News is that we have a research team that does research into vulnerabilities in these types of IoT devices. Not too long ago, we published a vulnerability that we named Urgent 11. We've done two others, the Blueborn and Bleeding Bit, and we're continuing to invest in these things. But Urgent 11 was especially interesting because it was a vulnerability in the TCP/IP stack of a real-time operating system called VxWorks. Most people never heard of that, but VxWorks runs on everything from PLCs and MRI machines to firewalls and printers and airplanes, train control system.
Mm-hmm.
There are hundreds of thousands of devices out there that run this operating system. We found some pretty serious compromises or vulnerabilities in this, not compromises, but vulnerabilities in this operating system. Yeah. Went through the complete responsible disclosure, worked with all the vendors, presented it Black Hat, made a big splash for ourselves. But this is for me one of the really fun parts of working at Armours because it shows our commitment not just to developing technology, but also to really improving the overall security and health of these kind of technologies in the market.
So, I mean, really, you're part of this community essentially. This is such an interesting part of work in tech is that we get to work with similar companies with complementary solutions. Sounds like you're a major contributor there.
Yeah, the research part of our company is really important. It's sort of foundational to who we are and how we think we need to behave in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's just we're going to take a little bit of a step back, if that's okay with you, Matt, because I'd really like those who've joined us today who maybe are less familiar with IoT beyond the hype that they've read about in the press. Maybe they are starting to think about why they might want to implement this and how it may be a challenge to do so if they decide to go down that pathway. So I wonder if you could just help us maybe just explain for those who are relatively new to the world of IoT, what kind of challenges you can encounter as you go into that world, and maybe some examples that you've helped to solve.
Yeah, happy to. And examples of things that Armours have seen is a really great way to talk about kind of what we do and to help make the problem real for folks. So. Right. Obviously, customers are sensitive to having their names used, and so we'll do this by anonymizing the information, of course. But the first and number one thing is that most people just simply don't know what's on their network. So simple visibility, the number of devices and the types of devices that are on a customer's network is often a problem for people. We often find 40% more devices actively communicating on a network than the customer actually expected. Right. So that's a really big eye-opening moment for those customers. The other thing to do is talk about sort of examples of things we've seen, and I like to categorize those into three sort of types of things that we've seen. First is classic enterprise IT stuff. Second is medical, because frankly I find that absolutely terrifying. And then third, there's just some interesting stories. So in the visibility category. So classic enterprise IT stuff. Any office building we walk into, we see things like smart TVs, IP cameras, wireless printers. Well, we found smart TVs that were already compromised and were actively trying with malware, and were actively trying to connect to any Bluetooth device in the office building. Mm-hmm. We've seen IP cameras that are connected to botnets that are exfiltrating data and moving video off of the corporate campus. We've seen wireless printers that have an open hotspot acting as a bridge. They're connected on one side, wired into the corporate network. open Wi-Fi hotspot to allow anybody to connect and pull data in and out. These are common. We don't see these once or twice. We see these a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a worrying aspect, isn't it? I think. I mean, I plugged. I bought one of these things that can turn your lights on and off by just clapping your hands or something, and I got freaked out at some point. I was like, I don't really know what else this thing's doing, and so I guess this. It sounds like there are plenty of examples of this, not just in the domestic environment, but in the professional environment. I mean, you talked about medical. That must be a pretty scary one, as you said.
It really is. And in the medical world. For good reasons, hospitals and doctors' offices have been connecting equipment to the network. It makes it easier to service them. It makes it easier to get data in and out and patient data and those kind of things. But that also makes these things, potential to be compromised.
Yeah.
We found a infusion pump that was actually connected to a patient working that was compromised with malware, and the hospital actually had to take a nurse and have the nurse go sit next to the patient and watch to make sure that the infusion pump didn't do something wrong while it was connected to a patient. We've seen MRI machines communicating to a command and control server in Russia having been compromised by WannaCry, because a lot of those things are still running Windows XP from however many years ago that was. We've seen medical crash carts rolling around the ER floors with connections into Facebook and clicking through to phishing websites and things like that. Not an actual compromise, but clearly a very unsecure behavior.
It really sounds like this is a Wild West situation in some ways. You've got this new sort of form of technology that we all know is going to be incredibly valuable and is here to stay. There's no question about that. But this creates all kinds of challenges, but also opportunities, of course, for businesses like yourselves.
It really does, and the visibility piece is another angle that folks just don't understand. And your example of the things in your home, people bring those things to work. And what happens when you bring these consumer devices into work? We've seen things like a Peloton bicycle connected to a secure network on a manufacturing floor. A guy wanted to work out at lunch, but that shouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
The other one that we see all the time is people bringing gaming consoles into professional environments. Employees on retail showroom floors using gaming consoles. Again, is this actually a compromise? Not necessarily, but it's an indication of a network that's being managed in a way that allows unsecured things or very compromisable things to be put on the network.
Right. I think that's the essential one, is compromisable, because even if it's not a problem today, it could become one if it is not sufficiently locked down and protected in every way that we can think of, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. So most enterprises have a really great strategy for how to manage Mac OS devices, Windows devices, Linux devices. These are sort of more well-known, lots of good technology out to do that. All these other things, it really is. There's and there's new things coming out every day. So coming up with a solution to identify them and know whether they're behaving appropriately or not is a big challenge for most people.
And you're definitely reminding me, I mean, while we're talking about all this, I'm thinking back to the early days of Wi-Fi. It was a long time ago. Most people probably listening don't even remember that long ago. But what I seem to remember was that there wasn't a lot of Wi-Fi in the office, and people were still using Ethernet jacks and desktop computers mostly. And the thing was, it started to appear. People would bring in access points and just plug them into an Ethernet jack and have a wide open Wi-Fi network. All of a sudden, you've got all kinds of potential issues. Your entire corporate network being available in the car park outside the building. So it is when these new technologies come along that they sort of start to push the boundaries a little bit and challenge us in IT, in the tech world, to really make sure that we've got the solutions in place to take care of them.
Exactly right. And as you said, Wi-Fi is especially a big enabler for this, because everybody expects everything to be connected right now. And it's an expectation, whether it's a consumer device or an enterprise device or a manufacturing device. People assume it's going to be able to be connected, and that has a lot of business value to it, but it also brings in exposure to everything that you connect.
Sure. So I think the case is pretty clear. Let's think about Armis. Obviously, you guys are, as you've said, you're key players in this industry. You're contributors to it as well with the conferences and the research that's going on and so on. Tell us a little bit about what distinguishes Armis in your mind from others out there.
Yeah, there's sort of two ways to answer that. One is what makes Armis unique, and then what makes Armis plus Meraki unique. So Armis on its own, there's a few others that try to do similar things that we do, but nobody has the breadth that we do. Our knowledge base of devices that we can know correct behavior for is over 10 million different device profiles. And that spans every industry you can imagine, whether it's enterprise IT and healthcare, like we've talked about, retail, manufacturing, energy, building management, smart buildings. We see devices in every one of these places. And because the system is cloud-based and that knowledge base of devices that we recognize and understand is constantly growing, it gives us a breadth that just nobody else has. And when you start to combine that with Meraki, then, well, we're a cloud-based solution. Meraki is clearly got a customer base that's very cloud-friendly and understands the scale that cloud can bring. So we layer on top of Meraki a visibility to devices, but not just the visibility, but also their behavior, what they're doing, whether they're risky and vulnerable, and really helping their customer to leverage the investment they've already made in Meraki and get a whole lot more using that technology investment that they've already made.
It's awesome. And I absolutely love hearing these stories directly because we spend, I work in the marketing department at Meraki. I spend all my time telling the world through every channel I can think of, how we make life easier. We provide this great platform to enable others to focus on what their mission is all about. And obviously with Armis, that's what you've set out there. It sounds as though we're doing a pretty good job, at least for you.
Yeah. We couldn't be happier with the APIs that are available and the collaboration that you guys have provided. Been a pleasure to work with, and the customers are responding, to show us that we're doing the right thing.
Okay, so this is as we've said during this conversation, this is definitely an area where I suspect there probably are people listening who new to this sort of IoT thing beyond just the hype that they've heard about, and they're sort of thinking about how they can make sure they're as protected as possible if they start to explore moving in this direction. So how can they find out more about Armis and the information they need to help them?
Yeah, so the obvious places, Armours.com, of course, has a lot of information. There's a whole page dedicated to our relationship with Meraki and how the integration works, solution briefs, architecture diagrams, all the stuff you want to know to be able to see more. Of course, LinkedIn and Twitter and all the places to follow the news that we're involved in. And then, of course, the Meraki App Store. We're part of that and have been, and you can find us there. And I think there's even a video of how the solution works there.
Oh, awesome. So people can just go and get a refresher after this conversation. So
That's
that
right.
sounds good. Thanks a lot, Matt. That's been really helpful. Alicia, let's turn it back to you for a second. I want to ask you, let's just broaden this, take a step back, take a breath, and we want to help people explore how they can potentially go on a similar kind of journey. So, where can the audience learn about the sort of technology partner program, Armis as an example, of course, but also our other 75 or whatever it is. How many is it now?
I think it's 80.
80 technology partners. We like round numbers on this podcast.
Yeah, it's somewhere around
Easy
there.
to remember. So where can people learn more?
Yeah, so the great thing about Meraki and Armis together, we're really addressing the audience out there, the customers that are already here. I just want to emphasize that, people that are already using Meraki, of course, you could bring on Armis. But for anyone who happens to be listening who's considering Meraki Wireless and want to invest in Meraki Wireless and Armis together in their very first Meraki purchase, we're also talking to you, right? But to learn more, visit the Meraki Marketplace. It's actually apps.meraki.io. And if you visit there, you'll actually be able to see all the 80-plus technology partners that we work with, including Armis. In fact, if you go there, there's a search engine. You can type in Armis. Armis's listing will appear. You can learn a variety of different information about them. You can see use cases, videos, to Matt's point. What else is there? I'm trying to think. Screenshots of the product, that sort of thing. But the most important thing that you're going to find on the Meraki Marketplace is the request a demo feature. We really want anyone who's interested, if this intrigued you in any way today, again, whether you're already a Meraki customer or if you considered Meraki Wireless in the past and really want a wireless solution that takes security to a whole nother level, definitely go to the Meraki Marketplace and request a demo. It will actually route to myself and Matt's team. So we'll work together and get you in front of a demo. You could take a look at Meraki. You could take a look at Armis. You could take a look at both.
Awesome. I think this is, really one of the most exciting things that we're doing here at Meraki is, we're getting beyond just the essentials of providing the infrastructure to get everything connected securely, to make most of the efficient interconnects, the simplicity we talk about all the time. it gets exciting for me when we actually start to talk about how we're part of a solution with another vendor who's focused in a slightly different area, but is able to leverage Meraki technology because it's easier and they can get to the final goal they're trying to get to as quickly as possible. So it sounds like a very interesting world, and I think I would definitely encourage those of you who are listening to go and check that out. Whether you're interested in sort of starting to deploy technology like IoT yourselves, maybe you're even interested in becoming a technology partner with Meraki, and you've been inspired by what you've heard today. There's plenty more we'd love to talk to you about on there. So do follow the website. What was that website address again, Alicia?
It's apps.meraki.io.
Got it.
apps.meraki.io.
All right, all day. Awesome. And so if you have been inspired or you like what you've heard here today, let us know how you're using. Tell us what IoT devices you're deploying, any challenges that you've had. That'd be interesting to know. But also any other technology partner sort of solutions you'd like to hear about on the Meraki Unboxed podcast, because we'd love to do more of these. It's really just brings to life what we're able to do with the technology. So just as a reminder, the best place to do that is probably the Meraki community. I think that's a really nice environment for getting into a conversation amongst those who are doing similar things and just getting into that. It's not just purely Meraki folks. It's people like yourselves who are actually deploying the technology and getting these technology partners solutions in place as well. So community.meraki.com will be one place you can use that. And once again, you can reach me directly online at Meraki Simon on Twitter. I should probably do something else on Instagram or something, or whatever. What do people use? I don't know. Twitter works fine. So let's use that. Matt, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us today.
My pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
All right. And Alicia?
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Enjoyed it as well.
It's been fun. We'll do it again soon. All right. So we'll be back with Meraki Unboxed in about 2 weeks from now. We look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Bye for now.